Good morning, guys. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay, so here's a lesson. Pass it on, please. Well, it's great to hear that you guys are doing great. Today we're going to be discussing martyrdom. Does anyone know about anything about martyrdom?
Martyrdom is when someone loves Christ unto death.
Okay,
Yes, martyrdom is when someone holds on to the faith and dies for it.
that's nice.
Yeah, I believe so as well.
Okay, great. You all spoke correctly. But you said martyrs do love Christ, and they do. And they hold on to the faith, and sometimes they die for it too. But martyrdom is much more than that. Martyrdom is derived from the Greek word witness. So when someone witnesses for Christ, he's also a martyr. Okay? Anyone give me an example for a martyr?
Saint Mina.
Correct. Can you tell me more about him?
Yeah, he was a governor and an officer in the Roman army. When Emperor Diocletian declared that everyone must appear and pray before the idols, he left his position and headed into the wilderness to live in solitude. One day, however, he saw the martyrs with the crowns and heard a voice saying, "He who tolls for the name of the Lord Christ shall receive these crowns." Upon hearing this, he returned to his home city and went before the new governor, a witness to Christ. The governor tried all methods, even torture, to turn him away from Christ, yet he couldn't. So in the end, he cut off his head.
You have chosen a great example of martyrdom. Saint Mina was a great young Christian governor who witnessed Christ before the great Roman authorities. And Saint Mina clung onto Christ, and thus he gained the crown of martyrdom. Does anyone know if Saint Mina didn't get baptized, would he still be considered a martyr?
Well, I think that since baptism is one of the sacraments that are necessary to one's salvation, a person who doesn't receive a baptism doesn't receive any salvation.
You're right. Well, baptism is instrumental for salvation, but martyrdom is a form of baptism.
How?
Well, in the baptism one dies with Christ that may rise again with him. And it is in this hope that those who are martyred die. In fact, St. Cyprian claims that the baptism of blood, another name given to martyrdom, is far greater than a baptism of water, since offering one's life up for Christ is far more sublime than dying with him metaphorically. Furthermore, the martyrs are baptized, crowned, and dressed in glory by the angels themselves, while a normal baptism is carried out by a priest. He also claimed that in the baptism of blood, God and his Christ exalt, and that after a baptism of blood, the person baptized is no longer physically capable of sin, as they have already passed away, unlike the constant cycle of sin and repentance experienced by those baptized by water. He also said that the baptism of blood is the completion of faith, as there is no greater display of faith than being faithful to Christ until death. Finally, while those baptized by water receive remission of sins, those baptized by blood receive the crown of virtues.
I have a question. Earlier you mentioned that to be a martyr means that you have to witness for Christ. So does that mean that you don't have to die for Christ to be a martyr?
Well, there are two ways. The first way, a martyr sheds his own blood witnessing for Christ. Okay? That's like St. George and St. Mina. The second way is witnessing for Christ, but not shedding your own blood. Like, take for example, Saint Mina the Confessor. Can anyone tell me his story?
I can. He was a priest in one of the monastic communities in Skytos. One day, envoys came with a copy of the Tome of Leo, or another document instructing on Chalcedonian dogma, and demanded that the monks sign it and declare their faith in its teachings. In response, without fear, he took the letters and tore it in half and instructed the other monks to reject the Chalcedonian faith. As a result, he was beaten and tortured, resulting in the loss of his right eye. Years later, he was captured by Berbers and tortured so that he may leave the faith of Christ and worship their deity. But he kept tight to the faith. Upon seeing the wonders of God upon his hands, however, they let him go, and he died peacefully of old age among his disciples.
Even though Saint Simeon wasn't killed, he kept the right faith, okay? He was honest until the end, and he had to suffer to actually witness to Christ, okay? So finally, I would like to ask you guys one question. Who here would witness Christ like the martyrs?
Well, I would, but there is no persecution nowadays in the USA because people aren't trying to kill us because of Christ. Things are different.
You are somewhat right. There might be little to no persecution of that sort here. However, there are other types of persecution. We do not need to go to Libya or Syria to witness for Christ. We should all witness for Christ in our everyday lives. One can be a witness for Christ by giving account of their experiences with God and encouraging others to taste the goodness of God. One can witness to Christ through their actions and by living with accordance to the commands of God. One can witness to Christ by serving others and following Christ's example. One can witness to Christ by compassionately answering the inquiries of those who oppose Christ or those who are seeking Him in meekness and fear. Many think that there was an age of martyrs and that it has passed. But to be a martyr or a witness to God, whether in blood or not, is a timeless experience.
Thank you. You have changed my total perception of witnessing to Christ.
Well, I hope I helped you guys have a better understanding of what it means to be a witness for Christ. Okay, now let's stand up for prayer.